Recently, I was asked a question on Facebook as a response to a story about how do you move through uncertainty. Uncertainty is one of those that we all kind of know, I think. At least I hope we all know that the world is uncertain and nothing is guaranteed and something bad going to happen tomorrow and it's over. Uncertainty is one of those also things that plagues us. It prevents us from moving through something. It prevents us from taking action. There's 1,000 what ifs that can come from something being uncertain. Even the idea of saying I do, even the idea of bringing kids into this world, they are all uncertain. But we take those risks and we accept them and we move through them. But then there's other things that we struggle to have certainty with because we desire certainty. We want to know that pi is 3.14, and we want to know that that constant of pi in mathematics is true in all the other areas of life. And by definition in physics, pi is 3.14 in all the other areas it shows up. But we want life certainty. We want life understanding where, man, we know what's going to happen tomorrow, and we don't like not being able to dictate it. I think there's a couple different frames that I could answer this from. I want to start with the certainty that you feel is certain that really isn't, and just at the snap of your fingers can be different overnight. And that certainty is tied to your job. Now, no matter where you work, no matter what kind of employer you have, the certainty you feel that you have a place to go to every day is still pretty uncertain because that company may close, that company may change, that company may change their roles, and in my case, they reorged the company and I was no longer had a position there. Simple things like that can take something that seems certain and make it uncertain. But in those moments, it's often the idea of it being certain that leads to the false security of it being certain, where we usually step up and get tripped up on. To get through this, I would say step one is to recognize, where am I certain about something, and ask, is it really certain, or is it just appear certain, like the job? Because I think there's an illusion to walk through uncertainty that you first need to tackle. Where are you having the illusion of certainty when really it's more likely uncertain? And maybe the statistical likelihood of you losing your job is pretty low, but it still could happen. It's not a certainty. So first, like I said, measure and just consciously put effort towards the thoughts. What do I currently see as certain? Is it really certain? And just bring awareness to that. Second, label what is the things that you are uncertain about. What are the things that you are struggling to walk through, whether that be grief, whether that be a job change, whether that be maybe starting your own business. Maybe that is stepping into the idea of being the dad you've always wanted to be. Whatever those categories are, label them, write them out. There's a great TED Talk by Tim Ferriss about labeling your fears. And I think uncertainty and fear are married together. They live in the same ecosystem because what you're scared of is generally tied to what you're uncertain of. If we had absolute certainty, we wouldn't really have fear because we would just know instinctively we could go through it. So number two, label your uncertainties, label your fears, identify what they really are, and then maybe even rank them from priority. What are the things that really scare you and you're really uncertain about, and then rank them down. So that way you have this idea and a list to kind of give you some context of what things are uncertain. Step number three, rank them in not necessarily priority. Priority is not the right word. I want you to rank them in the amount of fear you feel to walk through it. So like if you think about like, man, if I could walk through that uncertainty, that just really tightens up my chest. And it would feel really good to get through it, but man, does it tighten up my chest. Kind of rank the list in how well do you, or how much do you feel like it tightens up your chest? Think about those ideas and frame like, you know what, that just like, whoa, that just really scares me. Because starting podcasts was one of those things for me that, you know what, I had no certainty that this thing is going to work out. I'm going to put all this effort in. What if it doesn't fail? What if it doesn't succeed? All those thoughts, no matter what, label that feeling to that list of uncertainty. The fourth step that I want you to think about is think about and ask yourself, am I excuse stacking from these uncertainties? This is what I often frame is if you feel yourself getting like 2 to 3 or even 10 excuses stacked of like, you know what, here's 10 reasons why I can't do that. Those are usually the reasons why you need to do it. And so think about all the things you're stacking and finding reasons, because you only need one reason for it to work. You only need one reason for it to be a massive success. But if you find yourself finding reasons or searching for reasons that it won't work, yeah, I'm going to call BS on that and going to tell you that you need to learn to walk through that one and prioritize that problem, because there's something on the other side that potentially change your life. That's usually how it works out that way. Number 5, the very last step that I want you to think about. When you think of all these things, we've listed out uncertainty, we've listed out things that we're certain of, we're uncertain of, we've listed the priorities to them, we've listed the anxiety they cause us, we listed how much we've stacked excuses on these different things. Now I want you to imagine what's on the other side of that certainty. Like, you know what? Let's just wipe away everything we just wrote down. What is on the other side of that fear? What is on the other side in a way that, you know, like, wow, that could really like just transform my life. My career would just be amazing if I could walk on to the other side of that fear. And so this is the magic ingredient that I believe gets you through uncertainty, is when the journey is worth the fear, when the journey is worth going through. So create a big giant reason of like, you know what, if this uncertainty was certain, what would show up in my life? Who would I become on the other side of that uncertainty? So knowing where you want to go, knowing why that's important, and knowing what would happen if you decide to walk through it, that in itself will then be like a horse and a carrot in your mind, which will allow you to walk through that uncertainty. And if you realize that a lot of the things that you didn't do and the reasons that may be holding it back, those reasons are valid, they're real, but like I said, the value of going through them needs to be greater than the pain that you might get through walking through it. For example, it's often said in weight loss that people only change when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of the change you're getting ready to walk through. And so getting ready to walk to a place that's really big and really bright and really exciting, that will help you get through and create a contrast to get you from where you are to where you want to go. I am your host, Ben Cloy, and this is The Business of Fatherhood, bringing you daily, 5 days a week, bits of wisdom to move you from the dad you are today to the dad that you want to be tomorrow. If you feel so inspired to leave an iTunes rating and review, those mean the world to me. I read every single one of them, and I love sharing them on socials as well, because that social proof of why this podcast is so worth listening helps spread the message, because people value what other people say on something that they're getting ready to invest their time. Well, that is all I have for you guys today. As always, we'll be back again tomorrow to round out one more episode, and I'll talk to you then.